everybody, it's KayBeast, and for this week's art video I have something completely different for you. I've never done this technique before and was really excited to try it out. So yeah, I did a layered paper, sort of like a collage type thing, using my watercolor and color pencils. I was really inspired by a video put up last week by Anita Gedzinska. I really hope I said her name right. Probably didn't. But she did a layered paper fan art of Totoro last weekend, and I absolutely loved it, and I was like, I really want to try that technique. And I was also really in the mood to do fan art of the new God of War game, especially the World Serpent, and I decided why not do both, so that's what I did. So yeah, I've never done a layered paper collage, like any kind of thing like this before. I've never done scrapbooking or any of that stuff. So this was, I basically kind of had to figure it out, like how I was going to do it as I was doing it, which is why my clips are kind of all over the place, because I was literally just coming up with steps as I had to do them and just recording as I did. So it's not in order or anything. Well, the clips aren't in the order I did it, but the actual order of me making it doesn't really make a lot of sense, I think. I don't know. I had to figure it out, but I did, and I'm actually really happy with how it turned out. It's not, visually speaking, the best piece I've ever made, and I'm probably not gonna like sell it or use it for merch or anything, but it was just me just kind of experimenting. The whole thing was just one big experiment, basically. I played with a lot of different ideas, and it was a lot of fun to do. So yeah, like for example, this right here, I did something I'd never done before, where I actually wet both sides of my watercolor paper before doing a gradient for the sky. And I've seen some other landscape artists do this with their paper. They usually use like gouache and stuff. And I was like, I'll try that out and see how my gradient looks. And I really liked how it looked, so I definitely want to do more landscapes wetting the paper that way, but I'll try it with gouache because I wasn't satisfied with the opacity of my sky, but I was using watercolor, so you know, that just kind of happens. So I'm definitely going to play with that. I also used my white gouache on here to bring out the clouds a bit more, but because the watercolor was still wet underneath it, it soaked up a bit of the blue, so I wasn't able to get the whites the way I wanted to. But again, you know, trial and error, I'm gonna have to figure that out. For the paper, I used my Canson watercolor paper, the XL pad, because I have like 3 pads of it. It was on sale at Michael's. I mentioned that in a haul video a while back, and I knew I was going to use watercolor as the base for every piece, so I figured I'll have tons of this paper, and it's really cheap, I'll just use it, even though the paper is kind of thick, which made actually stacking it a little weird. So that was fun. Maybe I should try like mixed media paper next time I try this instead, because it's a little thinner and easier to work with. But again, you know, I was just kind of figuring it out. A lot of times I planned out the pieces in my sketchbook. Like I did a rough sketch and figured out what the basic composition would be, and then I tried to sketch out what shapes the pieces would be. So a lot of times it was me just cutting out the pieces and just laying them flat on my table and trying to figure out if they would work the way I drew. And I think the longest part of it, besides waiting for paint to dry, was assembling it, because I kept having to move things around to make sure all the gaps were covered, and I'm like, oh crap, do I need another piece to cover this part? And then I had to make it real quick. So, you know, a lot of figuring it out. Most of the final detail on the actual World Serpent was done in color pencil, because my watercolor washes wound up being a lot lighter than I thought they would be, and I didn't want to mess it up. So I'm like, I have more control with the color pencil, and it's small details, so I'll just do that. But yeah, I had a lot of fun doing this. Just a little side note, if you want to do collage type work, make sure your X-Acto knife is new and or freshly sharpened. I bought a pack of new X-Acto like knife tips to go into my thing a while back, and the one in here isn't completely new, but it's mostly new, so it cut a little well. But you know, if I had a sharpener, if I put a fresh blade in, I probably would have had a little bit of an easier time cutting my paper. So yeah, definitely make sure you have a really sharp knife, like an X-Acto knife or a box cutter or something, but X-Acto knives are kind of easier to manipulate. And then I have my self-healing cutting mat that used to be my old painting surface, which is why it's all messy, to cut on, so that made things a little bit easier. The actual tape that I used was double-sided mounting tape. I ran out to Walmart the last day I was working on this because I had been using just regular Scotch tape just to kind of loosely hold things together, because I knew I could just take it right off again. But for the permanent tape, I needed something obviously that was more permanent and double-sided, and the mounting tape that I found actually is like foam, so it has a thickness to it, which wasn't what I originally wanted, but it actually wound up being really helpful when I was assembling the piece, because for some of the pieces that were near the top, I wound up layering a couple of pieces of the tape on top of each other to get height so they would sit well on the paper. But again, that was a lot of trial and error, so trying to figure out things, how they would work. And there were a lot of cases where I didn't actually record as I was working because I felt it would be repetitive, because it was me basically doing the same thing with multiple things, kind of, if that makes any sense. But I had a lot of fun doing this. So did a little sky gradient, tried to bring out the clouds a bit more. For the actual mountains, you saw me do a small patch of just like a random little wash with some browns and other earth tones, and then I threw salt over it, and then I let that dry overnight, and I just cut that up into the mountains and did color pencil work on top. So that was just me kind of playing with texture. For the water in the front, it's a lake. In the game, it's this big lake, and the serpent is encircling the lake and making the snake, there's points in the game where you talk to the world serpent, and every time it moves, the water in the lake moves around, and it rises and lowers and stuff. But I was just doing a basic scenery thing, so for the actual lake, I just did a basic gradient, and then I go over in color pencil later to kind of roughly do like ripples in the water to make it look a little more dimensional. But at that point, I was almost done doing the piece, so I didn't put a lot of work into the water because I just kind of wanted it to be done. I think I started this Saturday night, and I finished it on Tuesday. And I worked on it a little bit every single day. So I definitely put a lot of work into it, and I just kind of wanted it to be done. And it was mostly, again, just trying, like, a more of, like, proof of concept thing. Like, can I actually build something in this way? Because I've never done it before, and also me geeking out over the God of War game. I haven't played the game myself. I watched Jacksepticeye's Let's Play of it, and I finished it, so I know how the game ends and everything. But I really want to play this game. I've played the first 3 ones, and I've beaten all 3 of them. But I don't have the money for the game right now, so I'm going to have to wait to do that. Especially because with the whole, like, Twitch channel thing, I'm really into, like, every time I see a new game I want to play, my first thought is, I could stream that. But I don't have a capture card, so I'm kind of limited to what I can play on my PC right now. So, capture card first, and then I'm going to definitely get my hands on this game, because it is unbelievably gorgeous. And I'm such a nerd for mythology, which is what got me into the game series originally. The character Kratos isn't great. He's not a very nice person, although I did like the growth in the new game. But my brother hates the series because Kratos is not a really nice guy. But I'm a nerd for mythology, and the creature design in this series is amazing, so I love it. And I'm really into Norse mythology, especially lately, so when I saw that they were doing this for the game, I got really excited. And then, of course, you know, Jormungandr is a giant freaking snake, and snakes are my favorite animal, so fan art was inevitable, basically, is what I'm saying. And I'm definitely going to have to revisit the whole Norse mythology thing. I really want to do more mythology pieces. I haven't done anything since my Mythical Creature series got dropped when I went on hiatus last year. But I definitely need to revisit mythology and mythological creatures, because obviously it's something I'm really excited about. So that's definitely on the agenda at some point. I definitely got to revisit that. But here I am assembling, and you can see me putting pieces down and taking them out. And to kind of get a sense of depth, I cut into a few of them and kind of stuck them in like little tabs. So yeah, this part honestly took way longer than it did on camera, because I shut the camera off for a while and was like, okay, I gotta think about it and not worry about the camera. and what it looks like, and then I'll just come back to it later when it's almost done, because this part assembling took me well over an hour just trying to figure out where they went and to make sure the tape was laid down. And yeah, that part was weird, but I'm very happy with how it turned out. It was a lot of fun to work on, and I definitely have to visit this technique again, but maybe with something a little simpler than a giant snake in a mountain range. I don't know. At least since I've done it once, maybe it'll be easier to do next time. I don't know. But anyway, I hope you guys really liked it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And I guess that does it for this week's video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next week. Bye!